see the picture of the governor of your state, the Sultan of Sokoto, and some other eminent people in the Islamic faith there, as the Sultan of Sokoto commends Governor Makinde on new Adogba Central Mosque built by Oyo State government. Details of that you find on page 13 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Still on the Nigerian Tribune, insecurity. We inherited tough period, says Rubadu at editors conference. Oh well. Okay, let's move on to the Daily Trust. What does the Daily Trust have for us this morning? See, appeal court sacks Zamfara governor. Others rerun in 3 LGAs. Right, the story says Kano, Bauchi governors no fate today. Panic foodstuff buying in Kano over fear of violence. Police warn against wild jubilation in Bauchi. Details of that you find on page 4 of the Daily Trust this morning. And also on the Daily Trust we have this: Bayelsa, Imo, Kogi polls, vote buying, intimidation, so disturbing. That's coming from Peace Committee, the observers of that election, saying that vote buying, intimidation, the level of this, so it's disturbing. All right, details of that you find on page 10 of the Daily Trust this morning. Bandits kill mother, newborn, orders in Sokoto. That's a sad one, and and the essay to Mr. President on security is saying, they inherited tough times. Well, we hope that the security issues in the country will be addressed soon, and so we won't have much of these killings stories to read. All right, we'll move from the Daily Trust to Vanguard newspaper. On the Vanguard, we have this from the editors confirm: why kidnapping has replaced armed robbery. Right, you find that's according to NSA. Right, the story says Senate summons NSA service chiefs over insecurity. Reps fume, turn back service chiefs, IGP representatives over debate on security challenges. Bandits adopt Kaduna district head as soldiers ambush arms supplier. Gunmen kill abducted priest after collecting 1 million ransom in Kogi. NMA threatens strike over kidnap of 10 doctors in Enugu. Well, safety issues still. All right, moving on, still on the Vanguard this morning. FJSC okays 22 justices for elevation to Supreme Court. All right, we read that earlier in the other newspapers too. And appeal court declares Zamfara governorship election inconclusive. Find details of that on page 13 of the Vanguard of this morning. All right, we'll move on, still on the Vanguard. Okay, let me see what Mr. and Mrs. have for us this morning. All right, from Mr. it says, yes, you told me about the increase in the price of foodstuff, but why did you serve this meal with a piece of meat? And then Mrs. replies, since you didn't do anything about it, that's a warning strike. Okay, so if the strike is going to continue, then Mr. probably gets no meat on this food. Okay, that's from the Vanguard newspaper. So we move on. Let's see what's on Leadership Friday. Leadership Friday. On the Leadership Friday, Supreme Court Judicial Council to screen 22 justices, for the Supreme Court. Yes, you find details of this on page 7. All right, as to that story says, only 11 will join Apex Court bench. The North Central, Southeast top with 12 nominees. All right, and still on the leadership, we have this. Appeal Court declares Zamfara poll inconclusive. Bala Yusuf with no fate today. And you find details of that also on the Leadership Friday. 2024 budget can't be funded with borrowing. That's coming from Edu. Alright, you find details of that on page 7 of the Leadership Friday. And another sad story on the Leadership Friday is found on page 6, where the story, one killed as police shites clash in Kaduna. All right, moving away from the Leadership Friday, let's check the New Telegraph. We need to clean up our electoral system, Abdusalami Abubakar says. All right, says citizens collude with merchants of corruption during polls. Gowan suspends reception for Akume, Wike, others over poor litigations. Alright, this is what you find on pages 2 and 6 of the New Telegraph this morning. And yes, on the New Telegraph too, you find that story we read earlier by the finance minister. Says Nigeria can't rely on borrowing. Okay, and on the New Telegraph you find details on pages 3 and 4 of the New Telegraph. And writer says nation needs adequate revenue to fund budgets as Senate raises concern over revenue leakages. And Obi to Tinubu, tell Nigerians how much you inherited in debt or in savings. Well, that's coming from Obi to the president, and details of that is found on pages 3 and 4 of the New Leadership this morning. All right, moving on. Politicians biggest what? Okay, to challenge to Nigeria's political system. That's coming from an expert there. Okay, let me take that story again. Politicians' biggest challenge to Nigeria's political system. That's coming from an expert. You want to know who that is and why he's saying so? Check the New Telegraph for this morning on page 2. You have detail of the story there. And from page 4, Benue farmers in Nasarawa protest herdsmen genocide. Alright, says 4,700 farmers killed, 652, 260 households homeless. It is well. Alright, CSO 6 cancellation of recent civil service promotion exams. You find details on page 26 or 29 of the New Telegraph this morning. Tinubu inherited security challenges capable of crippling Nigeria. It's coming from Roberto. And writer story says Senate summons security chiefs orders over insecurity. Will enact laws to address the root causes of insecurity. That's come from Abbas. Police chides clash in Kaduna over Gaza protests. I find details on pages 2, 3, 5, and 7 of the New Telegraph this morning. Okay, let's take the study. What does the study have for us? The study: painkiller use in those under 25 tied to mental illness. I hope you got that. Should I take it again? Painkiller used in those under the age of 25, tied to mental illness. This is associated with mental illness. So please stop giving painkillers to kids just like that, or even stop abusing drugs. Stop prescribing drugs to yourself. Get proper prescription from certified bodies or individuals before taking drugs. All right, with that, I leave the New Telegraph this morning straight to the Punch. And on the Punch, we have this: be patient. Inherited crisis won't disappear overnight. It's coming from Rubado. Right, NSA appeals to Nigerians, says Tinubu inherited poor economy and insecurity. Exposed deficit inherited from Buhari be transparent. Obi challenges federal government. And talking about inherited debt, all right, let's take this one. Forex. FG blames low export earnings, plans diversification. All right, you find details of this on page 26 of the Punch newspaper. Banks USSD debit to tellers hits 200 billion naira to telecoms. Yes, it's 200 billion naira. You find that on page 22 of the Punch newspaper. Senate summons service chiefs and demands security rejig. That's a very good demand there. You find details of this on page 8 of the Punch newspaper this morning. All right, Guinea-Bissau at 50. Tinubu pledges support for West Africa democracy. All right, details of how you find on page that's on page 15, I guess, of the Punch newspaper this morning. 80-year-old woman dies in Lagos bidding collapse. Details of that is on page 5 of the Punch newspaper. Osun Assembly suspends Chief Judge. Adeleke appoints replacement. Find details on page 42 of the Punch newspaper this morning. All right, let's check what is happening on the sporting arena. That's by checking what's on the Punch Extra. Okay, 2026 World Cup qualifier. Okay, Nigeria won and Lesotho also draws one. There's a draw there. Imagine drawing against Lesotho that are ranked 153 by FIFA at your backyard. So many things are wrong with this team, including the manager himself. I guess that's the Super Eagles coach there, or the team. Angry fans slams Eagles after draw. We were unlucky. That's Pesero. We didn't respect Nigeria, Lesotho coach says there. Okay, and still on the sporting arena, why Okoye missed World Cup qualifiers, right? Chelsea won't sign Osimhen January, right? And Adesoya laughing at Pereira, and Salah scores 4 in Djibouti route. All right, that will be all from the sporting arena, and with the sporting stories, we'll call it a wrap on the newspaper's headlines for this morning. Take a break, and when we are back, we would hit the discussion segment with an interesting topic, something that bothers on the youth. Don't go away.
for one day or for one time, we never felt the importance of governance in our community as now.
with our community. That is just what can that is happy that is not tolerable.
Costs. Able government for this
Doing
such we have
As I promised you while we went on that break, that when we're back, we'll return with our guest, for the discussion of the day. And with me today is Mr. Dotun Ojon. He's a politician and public affairs analyst. And don't let me forget to also add that he's a journalist as well. It's nice to have you in the studio
It's
this
good to be here.
All right, the issue before us is leadership, initiative, and the youth. Yes, the youth. Leadership. Most people say the quality of the followership it largely depends on the leadership. That is what the leaders, give to the followers that in turn form the larger impression of the society. And looking at the Nigerian society, we have a large number of our population, be within the range of the youthful age. But are we taking advantage, of these huge human resources?
Thank you for having me. I think it's a huge burden on the country. It's a huge burden on all of us because the question of leadership cannot be answered until there's a definition of what followership is. Unlike what you said, leadership grows from followership. So if there's a deliberate effort to make people love their country, if there's a deliberate effort to make people see their country differently, if there's a deliberate effort to make people see that most of the things that they are waiting for, that nature has already given them the capacity to do it, then you know that in the process of time, then you continue to have great leaders. And in turn, great leaders will turn around the community. So leadership actually grows from followership. But the essence of leadership is to create for the people what they cannot create for themselves, to take them to places where they cannot go on their own. But when you're solving the problem of leadership, there's also the need to lay emphasis on the attitude of followership, the behavior of followership, and the character of followership.
Okay, well, I will come back to the emphasis on the attitude of the followership and what is expected of them. You mentioned something about the quality of the leadership, that is given to the society, and you said the followers need to realize that what it needs for them to achieve their dreams is in them. But if you have what it takes to achieve your dream, as in you have that innate ability, but there is no enabling environments, as Nigerian youth of today would want to say. What do you do? I mean, that's one of the reasons why the Japa syndrome is
Yes.
on increase.
So I'm going to cite a very solid example that a lot of us saw in 2020. That's the NSAS period. So there was a part of Lagos, there was crisis. The youth were actually going out to destroy and disrupt. So police was trying to engage them. Then there's this, I can't remember whether he was an Air Force officer who came. I was talking to the police people that you don't need to fight these people. Be at our back. We will be a buffer for you. And this Air Force officer engaged the youth that were going to destroy stuff and all of that. And these people turned back. So most often, what we need in the question of leadership is inspirational leadership. Those people that will help you to look beyond your trouble, to assess every opportunity in the trouble. And like I said, I don't know, a lot of people don't get to ask the question as to how many people come into Nigeria and how many people travel abroad. The Japa syndrome we are talking about today is not even up to 10% of your population. Each day you get to the airport, you see a number of Nigerians getting out of the country. Each day you get to Nigeria embassies across the world, you see foreigners who want to come into Nigeria. That tells you that the same reason why Nigerians are leaving is the same reason why people are coming. And what is the reason? Problem. When you see an environment that is not enabling, what comes to your mind? Because the innate ability of an average African is to run away from trouble. And that's why Africans run into trouble. But if you have built the capacity to see the opportunities in trouble, that's the same reason why they are coming. See, let me tell you that a population of over 200 million people is a market for everything. You just need to know how to take advantage and take your own share of the market. But that's not, we are not even here to say, oh, whether this is bad or this is good. But the enabling environment, most of the time, it is not physical, it is innate. Innate in the sense that the way you see the environment determines what you do with it. I was having a conversation with one of the youth in Ondo State yesterday, and he said something that, day before yesterday, and he said something that I am yet to recover from. He actually got a land fenced. Somebody is the owner of the land and gave to that. Oh, we don't know what to do with the land. So, and he planted tomato. And he said a very big food outlet tested his tomatoes, and they were like, oh, you mean that you actually did this in Ondo State? And for the first time, I'm looking at it, wow, so that can actually be grown here. So the environment most time is not to sit in mediocrity and think that nothing is going to work here. The environment is to look at the problem, and any problem you are concerned about is a direction that you could be a solution to the problem. So instead of looking at the environment that is not enabling in the physical sense of it, I think we should look inward and see the environment that is enabling, seeing the opportunities that lie in our troubles.
So how do you as an individual, for instance, on the newspapers headlines this morning, virtually all the newspapers have stories on issue of insecurity in one way or the other. You mentioned a young man who went into tomatoes farming.
Yeah.
Somebody out there will be saying, oh, I also did same, but I could count my loss due to insecurity issues. So how do you solve that as an individual?
Yeah, the problem of insecurity, in fairness, is not just about Nigerian issue. The way we are tackling it here is what I do not like, and we must lay emphasis on that. The most important thing in life is security. In fact, when you have power security and physical security, you can actually do everything that you think you can do. But most often, people see that they because while we're growing up, and I need to say this story, I never knew that people who are raised in monogamy home actually have problems. Because what we were hearing growing up is that, oh, it's the wife of my father that is my problem. When you see people, they always complain, and it formed in my head that, oh, people who are not in polygamous home do not have problem. Until I actually grew, then I began to see people that came out from monogamy, and they're having issues. And I remember, I said to somebody that, oh, now I understand that our mindset in Africa is always to hold another person responsible for our personal failure. And that's what we have extended. We were supposed to have a program on Wednesday, there was strike, we postponed it. We could have said because of the strike, we are not going to hold it again. People could say, oh, because these things are happening, I am not going to do this. But the essence of living is to create an impact. And at the end of the day, if you allow another person under any guise to stop your impact, maybe at the end of life, you will not have any reason to justify what it is that you are supposed to do that you didn't do. So we are not playing down the issue of insecurity. This same man that planted tomato after airport, he had a yam farm there. He had already tilled the land and he had already done a lot of things. And he said they kidnapped some of his staff. And he had to come back. And so we continue to re-strategize. And what I do not want us to get to a point where the negative news in the community will win us to the point that we will not make impact on the community.
Yeah, talking about impact, yes, the program that was supposed to be held on Wednesday, at least I have a glimpse of that program. It's about leadership, it's a leadership initiative and mentoring with emphasis on mentoring for the youth. Yes, people would like to say success is due to hard work and your giftings and all that. But then the place of mentorship, cannot be removed, know, before you could make success. So what informed this decision? Why do you think that you have to provide this kind of platform, for the youth?
Okay. Sorry for that. When we started, we actually started out as a leadership platform. But along the line, we saw that, and we borrowed the idea from politics. Somebody can come from nowhere, come into politics because he has a mentor that people call Godfather. And the person